violating all principles of justice, fairness, and due process. We will never surrender America's sovereignty to an unelected, unaccountable global bureaucracy.
Trump's decision to come out of ICC, which is International Criminal Court, sends a lot of signals and a lot of happiness to some of us. From time of the inception of ICC, David Matanga and others, I want to thank David Hoyle, my professor, Professor Hoyle in London. Thank you very much for mentoring me to stand firm to discuss the African question on the ICC. It is very important, therefore, for the people of Africa to understand that while you rejoice, while you want to hate Trump, Trump has made it very clear that globalization is not part of his agenda.
America is governed by Americans. We reject the ideology of globalism, and we embrace the doctrine of patriotism. Around the world, responsible nations must defend against threats to sovereignty, not just from global governments, but also from other new forms of coercion and domination. In America, we believe strongly in energy security for ourselves and for our allies.
Today, as we speak, this nation cannot be the same. This nation is paralyzed. This nation needs serious redemption, needs the building of bridges. As a result of the ICC, the anger that was flowing from one end to the other created a problem that we see here, but people don't want to admit. People wait in Africa. Trump is correct. Let's wake up. Let's have a rebirth that delivers to hope so that our people don't perish in the Mediterranean Sea. A rebirth that will bring about peaceful resolution of conflicts, like the conflicts that occur in South Sudan between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. These conflicts don't give us any hope. These conflicts don't give us anything that is yearned for. These conflicts are a pity to Africa. We are lulled into the ICC in 1998 by Kofi Annan. America rejected ICC, stood firm and said, we can give you the money, but we shall not ratify for you because we have institutions. We have failed our own judiciary systems, but we want to be judged by another judiciary system which has no jury, it has no evidence, it has no separation of powers between the chief prosecutor and the investigative arm, and then with the prosecuting arm. That's the Africa we have. Thank you very much, viewers. Welcome to the People's Court, Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting all the way from the Republic of Kenya in Nairobi, and simultaneously in London and elsewhere in Harare, South Africa, and in the north, in Khartoum. We shall cross over to our correspondent, Dr. Ali Mukhtar, later on in the program, to hear what is the latest coming out of Khartoum. But for now, this evening, I want to address you on two important key issues, important and key to the whole discussion of Africa. What Africa means, what it is, what we can do, The second topic will be more of politics and submission suggestions on how Kenyans can go about with this new housing levy tax, of which is a good tax, but there is the timing of it is what is causing the problem. Viewers, wherever you are in the world, tune in to Punchline Africa TV, the only Pan-African station that looks at Pan-African issues, discusses them, solves them, gives a solution, says where we are wrong, ailing Africa. What ails us? What makes us conflict-prone country? The first topic of the day this evening is the regime change tactics, the selective manner in which external forces are regime changing countries in Africa. Is your country in Africa under siege? Is it under siege from external regime change? What is the problem? Do you see these indicators or you don't see them? Have you seen the indicators? Have you seen where we are heading? Do you see the angle that we are going? Do we see the agony, the pain, the anguish that people in Africa are going through? Externally selective regime change, giving a dose to each country. Are we under secondary colonization? Is there a hand behind this regime change tactics? Is there someone pushing someone in Africa to take up arms, to take up demonstration, to take up every form of regime change which could lead to violence where people die? These are the questions that I need to discuss later on when I sit down after opening on this session. 2 years ago, viewers, I predicted that over 14 countries in sub-Saharan Africa will fall. I am not a friend, I'm not closely related to Prophet Elijah and others, but I am a close confidant of self-instincts that tell me, those instincts tell me that there will be something that is coming which is not very good for Africa. I predicted that 13 countries in Africa will fall to regime change. Believe me or not, if you go back to count from the time 2 years ago when I told you on this same program that these countries will fall, you are aware of which countries have fallen. Some in very sharp conflict, some after elections, killings took place, some struggling over elections, some having demonstrators on a daily basis on the streets, some engineering to work together with these external dark hidden forces to make sure that the opponents are not left on the continent, but they are taken to the ICC, where indictment hammer comes for specifically Africans. Viewers, I told you, and I bring it to the People's Court, to the People's Court in Africa. I bring it down to you people, the viewers, that ye Africa, just as today I quoted Amara Cabral of Guinea Bissau, assassinated in 75, killed because he had a vision. Amara Cabral said history, we were forced to follow the history. We are now following the history. But we had history. Where did our history go of governance? Where is our history go on social contract? Where did that common bond of socialism, the bond of sharing, where did it go? Where did we pick this greedy ethics. People to be so greedy that they have captured, but they need to capture. They have eaten, they need to eat more. What happened to Africa? What happened to the Africa of the forefathers of Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Amira Kabura, Lumumba, Abdel Nasser, Sekou Toure, Benny Bella? What happened to the Africa of Obote? What happened to the Africa of Julius Nyerere? What happened to the Africa of Haile Selassie? What happened to the Africa of Tubman? Where did we go wrong? What happened to Africa of Agustino Neto, Samora Machel? What happened to us? What happened to the Africa of Jomo Kenyatta? What has killed Africa today is what makes me more worried. As we leave our sunrise people on the continent walking helplessly without guidance, the capture of African Union by external forces dictating which country must fall is what worries me more. I told you that 13 to 14 countries will fall. They have fallen indeed. There are more to fall. But is it our culture that these countries fall in that way? What is it making us agitate for the fall of structures, destruction of countries, destruction of infrastructure, which we have built since independence? Is there a problem? Is there a secondary colonization of Africa? Coming from people that colonized us. Do they see us going wrong? Do they see us developing faster than we should have developed? What is killing Africa? Is Africa the same? Selective measures, doses, paid to Africa on a daily basis. Regime change violently, orchestrated by elections. What's going on in Africa? Viewers, my stand remains the same. What happened to Libya? What happened to Central African Republic? What happened to South Sudan? What happened to Somalia? What has happened to Nigeria? Boko Haram, roaming armies, killing people on a daily basis, abduction. What happened to Cameroon? The English being killed by the French-speaking Cameroonians. Surely, because of language, which is even a foreign language, Cameroonians are butchering each other on a daily minute. In every 10 seconds, there is a Cameroonian, 10 of them are dying per second. What happened to Africa? Where is the Africa that we have been looking for? The Africa that was promised to us. What has happened to our social contract? Every place you go on the continent, corruption, 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 corruption. Lack of bread. It is only bread in Sudan that made the Africans come to the streets. What a shame. After 66 years of the first independence of a nation on the African continent, we still have no bread to feed our own people. In Zimbabwe, because of the sanctions heaped on Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe crippled down by external dark forces of regime change that still wanted that country to collapse, are still there. Those in Zimbabwe, put up your eyes, correct. Those in the systems of security In Zimbabwe, open your eyes. You are the target. You are the target that they want. The pacification of all the political parties, liberation parties in Southern Africa would start in Zimbabwe. That's what they want. That's what they have done to ANC. That's what they have done to Frelimo. That's what they have done to MPLA. That's what they want to do in SWAPO. That's what they want to do. That's what they have done in Khartoum. First, indict Bashir. Put him on sanction list. Criminalize Bashir. Every step that Bashir took, every nation he stepped in, was criminalized in Africa. Every step where Bashir flies in became a criminal state. Kenya, where I'm speaking from, has become a criminal state because Bashir came here. The ICC has reported Kenya into the United Nations Security Council, or Permanent Five. The Permanent Five, one being the evil five. That the one country is an evil that actually sends people there, creates jobs for Fatou Bensouda and Louis Moreno Campo to capture people, to capture more Africans, bring them to the slaughter at the temple of international diplomacy. There is nothing like a court in The Hague. It is an international club of diplomats who sit down and select themselves and make rules to govern Africa, to look at the highest ship, the biggest ship, the tallest ship, the tallest goat in Africa that they will plug and start and carry and take to The Hague. When it comes to taking decisions equitably, liberty, equality, as Napoleon they said in 1789, Napoleon said, oh my God, I need liberty, equality for the people of France. Today France gives us no liberty as Africans, but wants us to stand trial in The Hague. From Babgo, Ouattara should have stood with Babgo. Bemba should have gone with Bozize. In Uganda, others should have gone there. In Kenya, selective justice. In Libya, selective justice. Thomas Lubanga should have gone with many DRC troops. He wasn't shooting with water. Neither were DRC troops shooting with water. In Europe, they gave us a version of international Yugoslavia, Tuabino. In Africa, they said Sierra Leone, Tuabino. In Africa, they say it again, the Rwanda Tuabino. They separated us from this international criminal court because it was a project of one nation in Europe to deliver the black Africans told 6 feet and 4 feet and 5 feet to stand the trial. Where is the trial of Babgo? Where is the trial of Bemba? Where is the trial of Lubanga? Where is the trial of Tagana? Where is the trial of the Kenyan cases? Faked, equipped, supplied with lies of NGOs that demand regime change, that come to Africa and cheat helpless black Africans, that take money from Europe to come and preach to us, saying they will do civic education. What happened to Africa? Selective amnesia, selective regime change. If you look at all these countries, you find those symptoms. Look at the countries. Pick your pen and write the countries. Gambia, it fell positively. Ghana fell positively. From Mahama to the Nana Addo, regime changes arrived in Ghana, stalled, prepared, parallel scientists. Mahama left. He conceded because the majority of democracy in Ghana, the tolerance, the campaigns without killing and violence is what saved Ghana from going down the same route African countries have gone. Nigeria came in Buhari. Good luck, Johnson. Good luck went. He went down. He lost an election not because he was not able, but the French wanted him to lose in exchange with another French puppet called Buhari. Let's go. Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire, Babugo, uprooted, shipped. Ouattara remains as a French operative in the Western ECOWAS state. Togo, demonstrators on the street, in and out, sponsored by external forces of George Soros. Burkina Faso, it is a nightmare. The governance in that state is under siege. Nigeria again, the issue of Biafra and Boko Haram. Who has instigated Boko Haram? Who funds Boko Haram? Why doesn't Buhari allow people to go and finish Boko Haram? It's because their interests to be used to maim other states in ECOWAS. When we calm down, Gabon, Jinping, a regime change again. You saw 400 people dead, parliament burned down, and the constitutional court burned down. Nobody issued a warrant of arrest to Jinping. Remember, Jinping was the chairperson of African Union who helped to slaughter Muammar Gaddafi. Detained the plane of 5 presidents of Africa who were crossing over to Tripoli to remove Muammar Gaddafi. Cry Africa, my Africa. Let's cross over. Cameroon. As people in Cameroon die on a daily basis, as I've said in my opening remarks, nobody is bothering to take any action against President Paul Biya. Why? He's supported by one of the superpowers on the United Nations Security Council. That's indeed selective regime change and selective destruction of Africa. Cross over to Central African Republic. Oh my God. This is a country whose governments are run over. The tenure of office is about 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Central African Republic itself does not have tourist organization institutions to go to. But you have several Airbuses landing in Banjul Airport, taking away minerals, diamonds, gold, back to the place of that same country. Cry Africa. Jamena, Chad, we have a thief in terms of a president who is bribed $2 million to go and look. Have we stooped so low as Africans that a head of state has no shame but goes around picking money from poor, homeless people from Hong Kong or wherever they are? What a shame. Regime change is imminent. Chad is used, was used, money was used, was sent from Jamena, passed over to Khartoum. Regime change occurred. If you can wonder what the demonstrators on the streets of Khartoum are doing and how they are well organized with supplies, you can't find it in my country, Uganda. Neither can you find it in any other country where demonstrations are so organized. Algeria, the same selective regime change. The demonstrators don't want to leave the capital city because they want a particular person to be in leadership. Look at the background of the people they are suggesting. Where did they come from? From George Soros Open for Society Foundation, supported by the same countries. Tripoli, Benghazi, under siege. A rebel leader has got planes able to bomb another country. Is this the Africa that we want? We cross over south in South Sudan. Much has been talked. You know what has happened in South Sudan? Selective regime change. All these fights, when Total Oil packed up its goods and said they came to look for oil, they have not found any profitable oil proceeds. They left South Sudan after dismembering it. Today we are at crossroads, a mirage peace process, a fragile peace process, which needed the intervention of the Holy See in the Vatican. Uganda, time and time again, yes, it's true. For 34 years, President Museveni has been in power. But the forces that want to replace him seem to be similar to the forces that are being used by an external hand. Selective external hand. Yes, we have differences. Yes, we have a deficit, a very big deficit of democracy in our country. But the forces that are saying they want to replace Museveni look like they are more of George Soros than anything else. Therefore, we wait and see. There could be a regime change. Crossover to Kenya during the elections. A lot of money was poured in this country to the judiciary, to opposition and other people to make sure that this country goes to the dogs. Thanks God, most of us stood firm, worked hard day and night. We made sure that this country still remains on its feet, still talking, but we are not yet out of the woods. A state of despondency and apathy has crept in this country, paralyzed political emotions coming from opponents and even proponents of the same party. All these pointers are pointers of an external hovering hand that could dismember this country. Across in Tanzania, Tanzania held elections. What saved Tanzania is the law to say no presidential candidate will go to court in Tanzania to put a petition against the president who has been elected. That is what has saved Tanzania and saved Nyerere's wisdom to remain in that country. Most of you saw Lowassa, opponents of CCM, coming up to say CCM, or Lowassa saying Chadema won. CCM said we won. We saw the short period of Lowassa coming back even in Kenya. So this is quiet push of regime change funded by the country. When I sit down, I'll tell you. Let's look again at what has happened to across Democratic Republic of Congo. Across in Congo, Kabila postponed elections for 2 years until he was cornered, and he cornered himself and trying to install a government. I want to thank Tshisekedi, a great friend of mine, that time will tell. Stay put, put your feet down, make sure that the same countries that dismembered you before don't dismember you. Down in Rwanda, we have a lot of praise for Rwanda for having put a democracy, for having put a reconstruction program, for having put above all reconciliation, the healing, redemption strategy. Thank you very much, President Paul Kagame. But you remain on the radar. You remain on the radar of the Western Hemisphere, of a country that wants you, that wants change. There is a possibility that country remains there, still wanting to change a regime to pacify the redemption strategy that you brought in. Across Rwanda, Burundi, a president lies a hostage in his own country. A president cannot move out of Bujumbura. I want to thank him for having taken a decision to pull out Burundi from the International Criminal Court, a useless diplomatic club based in The Hague. Thank you very much. Kudos, President Nkurunziza. But a nation whose president cannot travel or fear of being regime changed tells you more stories. Those are the stories of Africa. Down south, in Lusaka, you find an off and on situation of regime change. President Lungu and the leader of opposition have spent more time in courts and howling more insults at each other than delivering services to the people of Zambia. Simple. A regime change hovers over Zambia. Across Salisbury, formerly Salisbury, now Harare, Zimbabwe, the opposition has been funded, equipped, logistically armed, materially, financially supported by the following organizations: Open Society Foundation, George Soros; Vanguard Africa of Jeffrey Smith; Kofi Annan Foundation of Dr. Nana Bussier, the son of Dr. Bussier, of the late Dr. Bussier; an American organization headed by Johnny Carson, the former Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs; a regime change supported fully through bank accounts in Paris money channeled into countries surrounding Zimbabwe to overthrow the government through a regime change mechanism. The same disease has caught up in Botswana. You see the leaders of the party that has been ruling that country since independence fighting over petty things. I am glad that the Botswana is also being affected by the regime change of George Soros, because the man who has come on top of the governance is a Pan-African. You can see for yourselves what is taking place in Botswana. The leadership in Botswana is disagreeing on a number of things, and it won't take long before we have a problem. Lastly, when you look at regime change, selective regime change, you can find what is in South Africa. In South Africa, what they have done is to empower the most vocal men to look like they are talking on behalf of Africans. The purpose is to dismember ANC, pacify ANC from the surface. In Zimbabwe, the same. Remove ZANU-PF from the surface. In Mozambique, the same. Remove Frelimo from the surface. In Angola, the same. Remove MPLA from the surface. In Namibia, it's the same. Remove SWAPO from the surface. My brothers, I just want to tell you that the battle in defense, what is happening in Sudan, is not the end. It's the beginning of the signs that all is not well. A new recolonization system is taking shape in Africa. The next country is Asmara, Eritrea. Believe me or not, it won't be long before we see heavy demonstrators in Asmara, in Eritrea. Thank you very much. I take a break and sit down to tackle more of this, plus taxation in Africa, and we shall look at the tax laws. What is making everybody in Kenya is very simple. There is nothing wrong with tax, levy tax. There is nothing wrong. You need to build an infrastructure, a foundation for a social contract. You can't do without it. But the problem is, what is the problem? And when I sit down, I come back, I'll tell you what the problem is. I'm always frank man. I always say what I think. I speak like Amira Cabral, and I will mean what I say. I talk like anybody who listens to Kwame Nkrumah. Is frank, open, allows criticism. Don't go away. Keep watching. We discuss Africa. We see what ails Africa. And today, this afternoon, we want to see whether Sudan will permanently remain a sick child of Africa. Is it a permanent sickness? Can we resolve the issues of Southern Sudan? Is it something that has gone wrong for 200 years? There has always been a problem in Southern Sudan, in that great region, starting from all the way the Alimadi Wars and the rest of all what happened until today. Peace seems to be elusive. Why has UN taken slow action? Why hasn't UN set up a tribunal? We want to see a tribunal that will make sure that Southern Sudan people are accountable. Those who committed crimes against the human beings. 20,000 Sudanese perished. They have perished. they are not accountable for. Nobody can account for them. And we cannot sit here, go on hammering peace agreements without mechanisms of accountability. If we set a tribunal for Sierra Leone, for Rwanda, for Camera Rouge, we need somebody to stand up for the poor masses, the masses that have died, the masses that continue to die, the masses that are being brutalized, murdered, maimed on a daily basis by marauding armies of both Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. There must be an accountability. You are not going to sit here and tell people there is no accountability in Southern Sudan. There must be a tribunal. Why do we run to harass countries of Kenya, put ICC on Kenya, put ICC on this country, put ICC on Central African Republic? Why have we delayed on putting a tribunal for Southern Sudan to find out who is killing, who has been killing, how they have been killing people? Let me speak for the people in Southern Sudan, the women, the children who have not gone to school, the children who have no medicine, the children who have nothing, who have been running since 2013, and the war cannot end because of two people. Let them face the tribunal. I'm not going to keep quiet as a Pan-African to see Southern Sudan being maimed, being tortured, being cut, dismembered, and we keep quiet and watch people put images of people, of malcontents singing to us in Uganda, in Kenya, in Ethiopia, in South Africa, telling us they have money. Let them face the international tribunal and tell the tribunal who gave them the guns, where they buying them, how they were killing people. Enough of is enough. Enough is enough for Africa. We have had enough. There is no need of that anymore. Enough is enough. And if people have died, they will not cry. We people who are left on planet Earth must cry for them. We must find justice for them. We must make sure that there are leaders who go on bragging on television stations all over the world who are accountable. They must be behind bars. Thank you very much, viewers, wherever you are watching us live from Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya, and simultaneously in London, wherever you are in Harare, Cairo, Khartoum. Thank you very much for watching us. This is Punchline Africa, Pan-African station television that always brings African news. I've been for the last 1 hour or so standing up to talk about Africa. I don't know